There is just something about this area that feels like it's our home place. When Garrison passed away and I could put him next to Mom, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm going to be buried, here in Wyoming.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This Sister Wives Season 19, Episode 25 is certainly one of the saddest moments in the whole history of the show. Garrison Brown's death did not only upset the family emotionally, it exploded every fragile relationship that hung by a thread. You could feel it in each and every scene, the sorrow, the regret, and most importantly, the silence between people who were close. Janelle is completely devastated. What she is carrying with her is not the grief of losing her son. It is the unbearable weight of guilt. She keeps thinking if she had missed something, if she could have stopped it, if standing back from him when he was fighting did not make it worse. You could see that she is attempting to be courageous, but her entire world was broken. And really, the grief is the most honest and real that we've seen in a very long time. What's so successful about this episode is that mourning reveals the reality in all of them. And the reality is this family has never been more fractured. The relationships that were already frayed, Janelle and Kody, Christine and Robyn, the children and the father, all of those cracks have turned into full-on crevices. Everyone's hurting, but they're all hurting in solitary confinement. There's no more togetherness. Kody, for example, is clearly devastated, but his pain appears to be mixed with defensiveness. He keeps repeating how he felt as though Garrison didn't want to hear from him, that he was giving him space. But you can't help but wonder, was it space or was it avoidance? Kody has emotionally distanced himself from many of his older children for years now, and the boys were especially so, and Garrison was among the loudest in whining about being rejected. That tension didn't start here. It's been building for seasons, and now they can't do anything to mend it. Gabriel, Garrison's brother, said that Garrison had sent him a goodbye message. Just a plain, simple, I love you. He did not have time to respond. He never imagined it was going to be the last time he spoke to them. That's the kind of pain you never get over. The kind that makes you replay 1 second in your head over and over, wondering what would have occurred had you simply responded a fraction of a second faster. And then there's Robyn. This episode yet again brings so much tension around her place in the family. Although she claims to grieve, there is a seeming lack of congruity. Her tears are not the same as Janelle's or Christine's. There is a wall put up, an act actually, and the fans are seeing through. She talks about needing to have done more, but the reality is she has kept herself away from Janelle's kids for years. Robyn did not accept Garrison and Gabriel. That is something you cannot ignore. Not now. Christine, meanwhile, is doing her best to assist Janelle, but she's hurting too. Here is a woman who looked after Garrison like he was her own, and she's seeing the individuals she thought were her family unravel further. What's interesting is the way that Christine and Janelle seem to be holding on to each other for support. As Kody stands alone with Robyn, the lines are drawn, sides are taken. The family is not together, perhaps never again. This tragedy might have been the time to bring everyone back together, but instead it's revealing how far the bitterness and alienation run. Everyone is attempting to mourn, but the emotional distance between them makes even that mourning more difficult to endure. Nobody knows how to talk with each other anymore. The love lies beneath everything that happened, years of silence, and choices that cannot be undone. At the end of this episode, all that you are left with is the overarching feeling of loss, not just for Garrison but for the family that they once were. The show began as a portrait of togetherness, of a family trying to make plural marriage work in the modern era. But today, all we're left with is the fallout. The emotional distance is now irreparable. The glue that bound them together has lost its adhesive properties. Some of them are maybe irretrievably shattered. This is not a story of one son's preventable demise. It's a story of emotional abandonment, shattered relationships, and the brutal reality of what happens when a family no longer shows up for each other. This was a painful episode to watch, not just because Garrison died, but because it made something agonizingly clear. The Brown family is no longer a family, at least not one that it was once, and I don't know how they're going to bounce back from this. Season 19, Episode 25 episode of Sister Wives is irrefutably one of the saddest ever in the program's history. Death of Garrison Brown didn't just shake the family within. It opened all the fragile relationships that were held by a thread. You could sense it in each scene. The grief, the regret, and more importantly, the silence of people who were once close to one another. Janelle is devastated. The agony she carries with her isn't just from losing a son. It's the overwhelming burden of remorse. She keeps asking herself if she let something slip away, if she was able to stop it, if remaining aloof in his distress worsened it. You can observe that she's trying to be tough, but that her entire world has been broken. And actually, her mourning is the most truthful and sincere we've ever seen in a very long time. What makes this episode so powerful is the way that grief shows us the truth about all human beings. And the fact is, this family is more fractured than ever before. The already tense relationships, Janelle and Kody, Christine and Robyn, the children and their father, all of them cracks have turned into chasms. Everyone hurts, but they hurt individually in separate rooms. There is no more togetherness. Kody, for example, is clearly heartbroken, but his agony is entangled with defensiveness. He goes on to explain how he felt Garrison did not want to hear from him, that he was giving him space. But you can't help but ask yourself, was it space or was it avoidance? Kody has emotionally withdrawn himself from many of his older children for years now, especially the boys. And Garrison was one of the loudest when it came to feeling rejected. That tension did not start here. It's been going on for seasons, and now they're too late to fix it. Gabriel, Garrison's brother, told us that Garrison had texted him one final time. Just a simple "I love you." He didn't respond right away. He never imagined it was going to be the last that they spoke. That's the kind of pain you never heal from. The one which has you playing back and back again some second, trying to see what would have been if you'd answered a split second quicker. And then Robyn. This show brings back so much of that tension surrounding her place in the family. She says she's grieving, but there's this obvious distance. Her tears don't sound genuine like Janelle's or Christine's. There's a distance there, a performance really, and audiences are seeing it. She says she wishes she'd been able to do more, but what really is that she's also been estranged from Janelle's children for many years. Garrison and Gabriel felt unwelcome by Robyn. That doesn't disappear, not now. Christine, meanwhile, is doing the best she can to help Janelle, but she's mourning also in a different way. This is a woman who loved Garrison like one of her own, and she's watching the people whom she would call family break apart further yet. What is interesting is how Christine and Janelle seem to be grasping at each other in a bid to be stable. When Kody is left with Robyn, the lines are drawn, sides are marked, family is not reunited, and perhaps never will be again. This tragedy might have been a unifying thing. Instead, it's showing how deep-seated the anger and the alienation are. Everybody is trying to grieve, but their emotional distance from each other makes that hurt even harder to bear. Nobody knows how to talk to each other anymore. The love is buried under layers of pain and years of silence and choices that can't be undone. All that is left after the episode is the overwhelming sense of loss, not just of Garrison but of the family they once were. The series began as a portrait of togetherness, of a family attempting to make do with plural marriage in modern-day society. But now, all we are left with is the collateral damage. The emotional fracture is irreparable. The bonds that had once bound them together have unraveled. There could be some that are irreparably severed. This isn't a story about the heart-wrenching loss of one son. It's a story about emotional abandonment, shattered relationships, and hard truth of what happens when a family no longer shows up for one another. It was a painful episode to watch, not just because of Garrison's death, but because it made something terribly clear. The Brown family is not a family anymore, at least not the family they once were, and it's hard to see how they'll ever get over this. Let me know when you're ready for part 2, when we'll delve even deeper into the fallout and how the dynamic between Kody, the wives, and the kids continues to unfold. You said give part 2, chat. GPT responded, indeed. Part 2 of the emotionally charged speech-style script for Sister Wives Season 19, Episode 25 continues from where Part 1 left off, keeping the emotional destruction, family dynamics, and irreversible changes brought about by Garrison's death going even deeper. Part 2. The sorrow becomes more burdensome with each passing episode, but so does the tension. The emotional isolation between the family members does not just persist, but grows. And while Garrison's passing has shocked everyone, it's horribly apparent that each person is going through this tragedy alone. Kody seems even more lost now. He still talks about how he feels blamed, how people are blaming him, but what's striking is that no one is actually doing anything to him with so many words. They don't have to. The weight of his not being there in Garrison's life is self-evident. This isn't a matter of one bad conversation or one misstep. This is years of remoteness, years of one-upmanship, years of emotionally shutting off from his older kids, especially the boys who drove him away. The truth is, Garrison was angry at the distance, angry at how it seemed that Robyn's family always came first, angry that he felt like an outsider in his own family. And now there's no way to heal, no way to reconcile. Kody's moment of clarity arrives too late, and that's a burden he will carry for eternity. and meanwhile Janelle is left to languish in some kind of pain that can't even be put into words. She's not just mourning Garris, she's mourning the fiction of family peace. She's mourning the fact that the people who should be fighting for her are busy arguing over their choices, or staying quiet, and intentional silence hurts deeper than any fight could have. Gabriel is really upset. He doesn't say much during the episode, but his expression does the talking. This is a young man who already felt disenfranchised, and now has the added burden of guilt, confusion, and heartbreak all piled together. He's mourning his brother, sure, but mourning the family that never quite kept them safe the way they could have. Christine is still looking out for Janelle, and their relationship is one of the few things in this episode that feels real, but even she is frustrated. She's watching her kids suffer. She's watching Janelle break down, and she's watching Kody and Robyn retreat into their own little bubble again. Christine doesn't say it outright, but the gap between Kody and her is too wide. No pretending any longer. Garrison's death has left that last Robyn. She continues to confess that she wishes that things had been otherwise, that she had tried to move closer to the other kids, but the emotional distance is self-evident. There is no history of closeness between her and Garrison. Her grieving is teetering towards guilt, or maybe the realization that now folks are actually seeing through the fissures, that no matter how many times she cries on television, it can't erase years of emotional distance from Janelle and her children. And the kids, they're mad. Not loudly, not physically, but quietly, simmeringly mad, hurt, let down. Most of them haven't spoken to Kody in years, and this tragedy hasn't changed that. In reality, it might have confirmed all their worst suspicions that when they most needed him, their father was not there. This is not an episode of closure. There's no grand reconciliation, no epiphany moment, but the slow, laborious unwinding of what's left of the Brown clan. Everyone is in survival mode, trying to make sense of a loss which has shaken them to their foundations, while also struggling with the emotional wasteland of already crumbling relationships. Most tragic of all is the fact that Garrison's death could have been the turning point. It could have pulled the family together, made them recall what is most important. But instead it's become a mirror, reflecting back all the unresolved pain. The breaks, the silence, the illusion of being together is gone, and what one is left with is raw, naked, and agonizing. By the end of the episode, it is evident. This family is no longer a family. They are individuals united by blood and history, but broken apart by resentment, absence, and loss. And while some, like Janelle and Christine, are finding strength in each other, the emotional divide between them and Kody appears impossible to bridge. This is reality for Sister Wives Season 19. It's not just a plural marriage TV show anymore. It's about the price of neglect, favoritism, silence, and denial. It's about what occurs when you don't confront the truth until time passed.